Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. This YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about the 2020 to 2022 North Node in Gemini transit part 4 of 4. In this segment, I'm going to be talking about the transit's possible impact on the zodiac signs Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. And yes, it does apply and pertain to the Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. Anyway, well, first off, as far as Libra goes, well, for Libra, the ninth house is what's going to be emphasized and highlighted. So for Libra at this time, this could be about a future being directed toward adopting a very diverse philosophy, showing flexibility in beliefs and opinions at this time. It could also be really about a destiny which is tied into a lot of diversification. Perhaps in terms of traveling to many different places. It could be about expressing more loquaciousness and being more talkative with foreigners, people in other countries, more so in global communications. It could be taking multiple higher education courses, or Gemini like higher education course, such as something with data or satellite communications, something associated with dexterity, such as working on training to be an auto refrigeration mechanic, air conditioner mechanic, something that requires the strong ability proficiency with the hands. This could also be about injecting perhaps a lot of spirited energy with in-laws and grandchildren at this time. And also too, this is about being, in some cases, about developing attributes. I mean, you're talking about the North Node in astrology, and really about maybe adopting more, it could be expressing more versatility with grandchildren, with in-laws. It could be about communication ability, and it could be tied into publishing, expressing eloquence in matters that you might be publishing. And it could be also too just becoming more shrewd, more street savvy in ninth house related matters, and it could be matters in your dealings with in-laws and grandchildren. It could be with foreigners, and also and just in general, it might be time where you might be coming to terms in some cases with a mercurial in-law or grandchild, or maybe somebody that you may know in a religious congregation or college, university. Anyway, next thing up. Well, for Scorpio, the 8th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. So at this time for Scorpio, well, this could be a period where you might be, really your future might be more tied into more mental stimulation and activity with a sexual partner, someone you're in an intimate relationship with. This could be a very, your destiny may be tied into a cerebral transformation. Now, in some cases, this could be about where you're talking about the North Node in astrology. It can be about issues that one may have to confront or address. In some cases, this could be about confronting or addressing a Gemini-like surgical matter, especially if at some point in this transit it makes it in conjunct to your ascendant, or if it makes an adverse aspect to your Sun, to your say to your Mars. This could be something where it could be something connected with the arms, the shoulders, the hands, which might require some kind of surgery. Remember that inconjuncts can be about adjustments as well. If you're having like an inconjunct aspect, it could be something where in some cases it might not be a surgical matter, but it might be where you have to make adjustment due to some modification as far as the use with your arms, your hands, as an example. You might be at this time too, that might be about addressing some credit issues. It might be through some kind of identity theft. In some cases, remember, Gemini is the sign of the twins, and the crimes that are associated with Gemini can be strongly connected with identity theft, because Gemini can be known to have an identity crisis in a lot of instances. So it's really It could be something too where you may have to also address an issue that's tied into a superficial, perhaps a sexual liaison, as Scorpio often likes to have things that are more deep and provocative. So, and also too, I mean, this could also be about really adopting, your future might be tied in adopting more diverse monetary support and emotion. It could also be through emotional, moral support, showing and doing so by using eloquence, and also adopting some street sense in terms of dealing with maybe if there are any issues that are credit related, such as with your credit card. Anyway, next thing up. Well, as far as Sagittarius goes, the 7th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. So at this time, this could be about where your future may be tied into a relationship. It might be one that might be somewhat superficial, or it could simply be about being more spirited, adopting more vivacious, really pursuing relationships with a more vivacious and spirited energy. Or it could even be a superficial one, or one where you're torn between two lovers, like the song goes. And it could be about some kind of like Gemini type competition. It could be sports, such as something with like badminton or table tennis, something that's like Gemini related that requires quick reactions and responses. And it could also be dealing with, in some cases, a mercurial grandmother in some isolated cases, or really some open, I call it schizophrenic open adversaries. I'm not talking about literal schizophrenia. I'm talking about ones that are very mercurial and flighty and real changeable in nature. Or they could be people that are in a Gemini type profession, such as reporting or journalism or some communication field, or doing something that requires dexterity and the use of the hands, such as auto or refrigeration mechanics. It could also be dealing with some legal. Your future might be tied, or you might have to address or confront some issues that are legal, that are legal related or connected with the law. Again, it could be something like with identity theft or forgery or plagiarism, whether it's on you or an accusation you may be making towards someone else. So anyway, well, the next thing up, as far as Capricorn goes, the 6th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. So we're talking about work and employment. Well, for Capricorn at this time, this might be a time where your future might be tied in to more diversity in your work, your employment life. You might be, your future may be tied into multitasking more on the job. It might be like you feel like you're being pulled in a million different directions and doing a lot of different things simultaneously. And it might even be in your daily routine as well. It could be about having to confront or address issues with a mercurial or very flighty aunt or uncle. It could be developing what I call like a versatile workout routine, or one that has a lot of diversity and variety, and it's something where you're changing things up on a day-to-day basis. And remember, the 6th house is also the house of worry, so it's important. You're talking about Gemini is a sign where you can really look at like connected with anxiety, so there could be a lot of this mental worry that you might have to address at this time, or something that's associated with Gemini, like siblings or neighbors or cousins at this time, which might cause some worry. Or maybe it's about speaking with eloquence, or just communications in general, or something with your vehicles connected with local transportation. Those are some things, that issues you might have to address and confront at this time. Or it might simply be having to deal with a mercurial or very flighty or changeable, again, an aunt or an uncle, or somebody that's a fellow employee. It might be about theft that you might have to deal with. It's say if you're a supervisor and you're working at a place from employees, it might become where it might be more prevalent at this time than usual. And of course, a lot of this could be predicated and dependent on aspects this makes to your chart. It makes a lot of adverse aspects during this time, and say it makes an adverse aspect to your natal to Venus, which of course is involving money, Saturn could be about business, like so career. So if you're having like adverse aspects, especially to like planets like those can be indicators. Or if you're a supervisor or you're working with somebody on the job, you might be dealing with employees that might not be 100% honest, and it could be greater propensity maybe for them to be stealing at this time more so than usual. Anyway. Well, next thing up, as far as Aquarius goes, the 5th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. Hold on a moment, people. Sorry about that, I'm back. But anyway. Well, Aquarius, you might be dealing with one of these, could be the torn between two lovers scenario that you might have to deal with at this time. Remember, Gemini is very dual. It's a sign of the twins. You might be going through, address some issues connected with some ambivalence and indecision over lovers at this time. It might be dealing with a mercurial, very flighty lover or child at this time. Gemini energy could also be about theft, as I talked about before, and it could be about dealing with maybe a child or a lover or somebody you share some kind of fun, amusement, or enjoyment with, or a hobby with, that might be involved in some theft in some isolated cases. But on a positive end, your future might be tied in to doing something like Gemini related as far as sports goes. Again, I use the examples like badminton or table tennis because that, of course, can be associated with quick reactions and thinking, and Gemini energy can be associated with that. Or playing something that requires some kind of mental agility. It could be a game like Sudoku, playing or doing something like with chess or haiku. Those are some things, the way this might manifest and pan out. It could also be about getting yourself being very shrewd. It could be about shrewd investments at this time, showing a lot of maybe some street savviness, a lot of common sense in those areas, and also by being more loquacious, more talkative, being able to diversify your connections might be tied into greater personal popularity at this time. It could also be in your future investing might be tied in to getting more intellectual stimulation with 5th house people, such as lovers. It could be children, people you share hobbies with. You might be involved in some sports or recreation with somebody at this time. It could also be you might feel directed toward like Gemini-like investments at this time, and it can be something connected with data or satellite communications or some communication firms. It could even be computers in some cases. I say computers really being more associated with Aquarius energy, but computers, it's still a form of communication. But anyway, and it could be at this time for Aquarius too, it could be also about diversification as far as hobbies and fun, amusement, and enjoyment may go at this time, more so than usual. So anyway, well, last but not least, as far as Pisces goes, the 4th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. So at this time for Pisces, well, you might find yourself at this time being I feel like you're directed toward being more having more diversity and variety in your home and your family life, opening the lines of communications. If there's been something lately where communications have become somewhat stagnant, it might be a time where this might be a period where your future might be tied into communicating more with home, family members, people you're simply close to home with. And also, it may be about using more street sense and really cunning and doing things that are more about common sense that could be tied into greater emotional security at this time, whether it's keeping like pepper spray with you if you're in a bad neighborhood, or if it's something with your home, setting up some maybe I don't want to say traps, but things in your home which could actually maybe deter unwanted intruders, whether it might be a fake camera, or maybe or inside your home you make a little maybe a hole in maybe a hole in your ground and put a little patch on top of it so the potential burglar don't suspect it. But you know what I'm saying. Basically, that's a flippant example in a way, but it could be. But those are, I mean, those are some things that you might be focusing on at this time, and where your future may be directed toward. And the thing about this is you might also be have to confront or address some issues with a overly, could be mercurial, flighty, or fickle. It could be someone you're close to home with, a prominent family member, the less dominant parent, which is often the mother. And it could also this could manifest too, and where you feel like you're developing maybe some attributes that you have at the core that are associated with Gemini, such as really about variety, being versatile, dexterous, being multifaceted, doing things, expressing yourself with eloquence, being able to talk about various subjects, being more loquacious, more talkative, trying to learn, assimilate a lot of information in a rather short period. Remember, the fourth house is also associated with our ancestry as well, so it might be where you're trying to use a little street savviness and really using a lot of quick-wittedness to try to get in touch with some ancestry, some people that you may not have spoken to in some time, or maybe getting in touch with your roots and being more inquisitive and finding out about them, inquiring more about your traditions. Or you might feel like you're directed toward your Gemini-like traditions. It could be going to some communication expo, or things that are requiring mental stimulation. It could just be playing some kind of games that are associated with mental challenges. It could be playing like chess or checkers or Sudoku, or a game of haiku. These are things that you might feel that at this time that you are directed toward, and it might even be dealing with maybe a superficial family connection where you feel that might be an issue that might have to be addressed or confronted at this time. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.